Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschatyatastarine. We today are continuing from Wednesday. Wednesday we were discussing the position of the Supersoul, Krishna's guidance from within, Chaitya Guru. And so we're going to continue that discussion. I think today will be the last day. We read, on Wednesday, we read many things Prabhupada said, and many of them were similar. Prabhupada making the point of there's four gurus. Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, the one who leads you on the path, the Siksha Guru, the instructing Guru, the Diksha Guru, initiating spiritual master, and the Chaitya Guru, the Supersoul within. So actually there's not three gurus, there's four. And that the goal of the Siksha or Diksha Guru is to connect you with the Chaitya Guru. So that's what we had discussed. I had to start late today because I was working on something that I almost finished, and I had to stop working on to start the class. And I don't think we'll chant. We'll just start now. If that's okay. Unless you demand me to chant, then I will. We never seem to have enough time, do we? So I'm going to continue reading what Prabhupada said about the Chaitya Guru, and I think we will finish today, and then we can have also discussion. So this is from the Adi Leela 158. I'm trying to remember where we left off. I'm not 100% sure. Let me continue. Some of these are very similar to what we already read. So, this is from the Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 47. This is the translation. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart as the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. When he is kind to some fortunate conditioned soul, he personally gives him lessons so he can progress in devotional service, instructing the person as the Supersoul within and the spiritual master without. So I think the natural question that comes up is, and Prabhupada says here, when Krishna is kind, so what do we have to do for Krishna to be kind to us? That's a good question, right? Excuse me. And we know the answer. Be sincere, be desirous, follow Krishna consciousness. Krishna will help you because he sees that you want help. He'll also help you stay in Maya if that's what you want. So let's read this in another way. I'm going to replace a few words. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart as the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. When a conditioned soul wants to forget him, he personally gives him lessons so that he will turn away from him and instructing him as the Supersoul within. Yeah, so that's not what Prabhupada said, but that's the other side of the equation. So I'll read what Prabhupada said again. Krishna is in everyone's heart as the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. When he is kind to some fortunate conditioned soul, he personally gives him lessons so he can progress in devotional service, instructing the person as the Supersoul within and the spiritual master without. That means you will get guidance. And he will send you a guru also. I didn't have time for breakfast, so this drink is my breakfast. So at least for now, it has like barley and chicory in it. It's kind of like a cereal in liquid. Keeps me going for the next hour and a half. This is a nice verse. This verse is actually from the 11th canto, but it's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita 22:48. And this is spoken by Uddhava. And Uddhava was instructed by Krishna, and this is what he said after he was instructed. "O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you." So we have been discussing this a little bit in the last class. You remember there was one purport when Prabhupada said Krishna is always speaking to us, trying to get us to understand basically what he's teaching in Bhagavad Gita. It's interesting, you read the Bhagavad Gita, and many of us, the first time we read the Bhagavad Gita, said, this kind of sounds familiar, like I heard this before somewhere, but I don't know where. Well, that's because Krishna is trying to tell you all those things. Before you read them in Bhagavad Gita, he's in your heart, and if you're sincerely looking for the absolute truth, then he's basically speaking of Bhagavad Gita. You're like your own Bhagavad Gita. And sometimes I say that we all have our own Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaking personally to us, what we need to hear. So understanding that, then it just means that what consciousness or what attitude do I need to have, or what behavior do I need to adopt so that I can hear Krishna's instruction. Yesterday I was speaking to some guests in New Mayapur, and I was saying that it's like we have switches where we turn off this internal guidance because we don't want it, because we want to do something that's not right. And if ever you want to do something that's not right, certainly you don't want anybody telling you, don't do that, it's not right. You certainly want to just hear that this is what I want to do and it's okay. And you want to hear all your reasons or excuses. So it's like we have these little switches that we just turn off when we become attached to doing something that we really shouldn't do. It's just like, okay, this little intelligence switch is telling me don't do that. And the intelligence, Prabhupada said, is super soul manifest through intelligence. That's how he guides us through the facility. Super soul works through the, you could say, interface of intelligence. Or that's how he personifies or manifests himself, through intelligence. So when we want to do something that's not Krishna conscious or not in our best interest, sometimes it's like there's a little switch and we just turn it off. Like, oh, now I don't have to hear that internal guidance, which is telling me that I shouldn't do this. Now I can just do this guilt-free. I can have guilt-free pleasure, because who wants to be guilty? And as we know, religion can make you feel very guilty because it tells you not to do something you want to do. Guilt is not a pleasant emotion. Some people fault religion because it makes you feel guilty. And therefore, you could say religion makes you unhealthy psychologically. So better, let's just turn those switches off, and then we can be happy and we can be fine. No problems with guilt. No problems with shame. We just do what we want, uninhibited. So we turn the switches off, turn the super soul off, turn the intelligence off. Then we just get pure mind. Pure mind says, I like this, do it. That's it. Have you done that before? You know that you must know the switch I'm talking about, right? You must have turned it off before. Some of you are saying, yeah, I turned it off and I forgot to turn it back on. Well, sometimes that happens. You turn it off and you forget to turn it back on for like a day or a week or a year, or some people a lifetime, or many lifetimes. And so Krishna is saying, I am there inside of you, guiding you with my personal Bhagavad Gita for you. And unfortunately, you turn the switch off. So now you put it on pause and you don't hear it. So now you can engage in material activity. And if you want to engage in material activity, why would you want the switch on? Because the switch is saying, don't do it. And you don't want to hear that. You want to just hear your mind saying, it's okay, you deserve it, you need it. Why feel guilty? You're just human, etc., etc. So you know what I'm talking about, right? But the beautiful thing is, as Prabhupada's saying, and as Krishna is saying in the Gita, that if you want to be directed to me, I'll give you that direction. And Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says different things about becoming Krishna conscious. Sometimes he says it's easy, and sometimes he says it's not easy. But one of the reasons he says it's easy is because Supersoul will help you. And so it's kind of like Supersoul's pushing you. Inspiration, encouragement, guidance. But when you turn the switch off, yeah, then it's really difficult because you're not getting that. Sometimes devotees say, my mind is so strong. Turn the intelligence switch on and turn the volume up to 10. It'll overcome your mind. Some of us have not turned the switch off. We just turned the volume down. So, which is kind of the same problem. And maybe worse because you vaguely hear it and that makes you feel guilty. If you don't want to feel guilty, turn off the intelligence switch. Then you'll have nothing to make you feel guilty. But otherwise, turn it on, turn the volume up, and you will get guidance. And then Prabhupada says, it'll be very easy to be Krishna conscious. So if someone is feeling that it's difficult to be Krishna conscious, maybe that switch is turned off or maybe the volume's too low. Because here we're reading, or what we read on Wednesday, and Prabhupada said Krishna's always broadcasting how to become Krishna conscious. And you know, what's interesting is that the broadcast is going on for everyone, not just devotees. Because so many people are interested in spiritual life. And when you talk to them, even though they've never read Bhagavad Gita, you can tell Krishna is guiding them because they're sincere. They have realization. We all had realization before becoming devotees. That's why we were attracted to Krishna consciousness. Because when we heard Krishna consciousness, it resonated with us because Krishna was already giving us that guidance because we wanted spiritual life. So it's not just for people who are very Krishna conscious, but for anyone who wants to be Krishna conscious, wants God consciousness. Then they start to hear Krishna's guidance. And we all have that experience, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be here. Here's a nice, it's from a lecture. May 16th, 1970, Los Angeles. Where were you May 16th, 1970? I was in San Jose, California, helping to start the first temple in San Jose, which was a few blocks from the university. And I remember 1970, a quart of milk was 25 cents. And also when we opened the temple, the grass was yellow. And the temple president said, I want you to water the grass every morning and chant Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. And I chanted Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. I think in 2 days it all turned green. So that's a little horticulture insight. Chant Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu when you water your plants. See what happens. So, Prabhupada is lecturing here. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, by the mercy of the spiritual master, and by the mercy of Krishna, one enters into this devotional service. Prabhupada continues, how is that? The mercy is parallel line. If you have not found out a spiritual master, but if you are sincere, then Krishna will take you to a bona fide spiritual master. And if you get a bona fide spiritual master, then he will take you to Krishna. So both things are parallel. If you are sincere, Krishna is always sitting within your heart, Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within the heart. That spiritual master within the heart manifests himself externally as the spiritual master. Sakshad Dhari Tvena Samasta Shastra Uktastata Bhabyata Eva Shadbhi. Sakshad, directly representative of Krishna. This is the verdict of all Shastras. Samasta. Samasta means all Shastras. Sakshad Dhari Tvena Samasta Shastra Uktastata Bhabyata Eva Shadbhi. And it is not only stated, but it is accepted as such by great sadhvi, great devotees. So you may know, I think you all know, that the opposite of this is also true. That if one thinks they want spiritual life, but it is not, they're not ready for the real thing, then Krishna will direct them to another guru who will give them something, or maybe give them everything wrong, according to their level of, we can say, sincerity, desire to know. And Bhaktivinoda Thakura said, some people in the name of spiritual life actually don't want spiritual life. They actually want to be cheated. Of course, they don't know that consciously. And he said there are many bogus gurus, and bogus gurus are necessary. And the reason they're necessary is they're necessary for people who don't want a real guru, who are looking for a guru, but want spiritual life to be cheap, or want to accept a compromised version of spiritual life. So he said those other gurus are necessary because there are people in the market looking for those gurus. And so Krishna is fulfilling their need by creating such gurus. That's interesting, isn't it? Now, I want to discuss something which is also, I think, important and also interesting. As you know, it has happened that sometimes a guru is Krishna conscious and deviates at some point. And his disciples have to reject him because he's no longer Krishna conscious or no longer able to guide them. And Bhaktivinoda Thakura recommends, and other acharyas recommend, that if the guru can no longer guide the disciple, then the disciple should look for another guru to take guidance from, a Siksha guru, or if necessary, in some situations, even take reinitiation. If that guru becomes a Mayavadi, then connection with that guru is contaminating, and one should take reinitiation, or he becomes helplessly entangled in material life. A connection should be broken, connect with another guru. Now, I have heard something which I don't believe to be true. And devotees who've had gurus who have fallen from the standard and who've had to give up their service as guru have been told by some people that the reason your guru fell is because of your material or sinful activity. But worse, which also could be true, if the guru is weak, he couldn't digest the karma. But I think the worst thing is that they're told that you were not sincere and therefore you were directed to such a guru. However, everyone in ISKCON who is directed, even if for the sake of discussion you say, well, you were directed to a guru who fell down, so you must not be sincere. But you came to ISKCON and you got shelter of Prabhupada. So how could you not be sincere? You found the right guru. Unfortunately, the person representing Prabhupada could not maintain himself. Now, we see that many devotees have taken shelter of Prabhupada and were initiated by one of his disciples, who later could not execute the function of their guru, who had continued with taking instruction from Srila Prabhupada and taking instruction from other venerable Vaishnavas, and they're doing very well in Krishna consciousness. So I don't think they're insincere. It's unfortunate that their guru became weak. ISKCON isn't the first time it has happened, as some people may say. This has never happened. A guru has never fallen. No, when you study history, it has happened. It's rare, but it has happened. But it's not indication that the disciple is not sincere, because they're still in the sanga of Prabhupada and Prabhupada's followers. So how could they be in that sangha if they're not sincere? And if you're sincere, you'll always be successful. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Nahi kalyana krit kaschid dukatim tatta gacchati. And that means one who does kalyana krit. Kalyana means auspiciousness, auspicious action. Kalyana krit. Durgatim tatta gacchati. You'll never be overcome by evil. So as long as we remain sincere, we will find the association of devotees who can guide us. Now, another thing that has been said wrongly, I believe, is that when very advanced devotees have come to the West to preach, and Prabhupada wanted his godbrothers to come to the West, so something Prabhupada encouraged. Some of his, some senior Vaishnavas have come to the West and preach. And some of their followers say, well, now here is a very advanced Vaishnava. You should take shelter of him. He's come, and you can see him. You should take shelter and guidance. And only those who are really sincere or pious will take shelter. And if you don't, it means you're not sincere. You're not pious. You're not something that you should be, because you didn't go to hear from them. And they say, well, look, Prabhupada says you should hear from advanced devotee. No question. We should hear from advanced devotee. But it doesn't mean if you don't, you're not sincere, as they might make it. Because here is a advanced devotee, and you must not be sincere because you're not going to hear. Well, there may be other reasons you're not going to hear. Maybe you're satisfied with hearing from Prabhupada or hearing from your guru, and you're doing well in Krishna consciousness. They'll say, you can do better. You will do better if you hear. Or maybe they feel awkward in hearing someone that's not 100% representing Prabhupada. There may be so many reasons. And this is not to undermine the fact that those who hear from this person benefit and advance. There's no question. But to say that if you don't hear, you're not sincere. I don't think generally it's our job to evaluate who's sincere and who's not. Because those on the other side will say, well, you're going to hear him instead of staying within ISKCON, so you're not sincere. So now we're both judging one another, and that's not what we want to do. Now, sometimes Prabhupada did criticize his godbrothers for not following some of the important orders of Srila Bhaktivinoda, and he said they weren't sincere. If they were sincere, they would have done that. Of course, Prabhupada has a right to do that. We need to be careful in judging. And I think Prabhupada often, not that I think I know, Prabhupada often, in making those judgments, was doing that to teach us. It wasn't any kind of personal vengeance he was taking on, but it was an instruction. If you're sincere, you would do this. This is what it means to be sincere. If you follow your guru, you'll do this. You wouldn't do that. So it was instructive for us. But I would say for us, it's not really our position generally to remark on the sincerity or insincerity of another person. I think sometimes a person's sincerity is obvious, and I think sometimes there's an insincerity is obvious. But to say someone is insincere or not advanced or not doesn't have sufficient sukriti because they don't go and hear from such and such a devotee, that's not something that Prabhupada taught us. And they have the shelter of Prabhupada, his books, his lectures, his conversations, his morning walks, his society, his disciples, and they're doing well. So to say they're not sincere because they didn't hear from this devotee, that is, I don't believe that's proper, and I don't believe that's something that Prabhupada would approve of. Neither did Prabhupada tell us that. Well, when I leave, you have to hear from so-and-so, and if you don't, you're not sincere. He never said you're not sincere if you don't. So, I am going to see if there are any comments. I'm on my computer, so I don't have to stick my finger on the phone. It's much easier. And the only thing is, it doesn't seem that the comments move. So Jyotirmaya is revealing where she was in 1970. She was in the mind of God, as they say in Greece. That means not yet born. Yeah, you were somewhere. Jyotirmaya, you were doing devotional service somewhere, I hope. Krishna Karshani says, why some people who are looking for spirituality, not necessarily looking for KC, or maybe we're making KC not attractive. Yeah, because you see, I don't know if I said this yesterday, Krishna Karshani, or on Wednesday, that the line between devotee and not devotee, the demarcation line, is not ISKCON. We think like that. I think I said that on Wednesday, didn't I? I quoted Rabbeinu Sarup, yeah. Rabbeinu Sarup Prabhu said something, I'm paraphrasing, but more or less, the line between, the demarcation line between devotee and demon is not ISKCON. Okay, everyone in ISKCON is devotee, everyone not is not. So we're all evolving. And so our spiritual inclinations may vary. And we see that sometimes Prabhupada would discuss Christian philosophy, mostly about meat eating. But he never demeaned Christians in general. And one time Prabhupada said, if they could just stop eating meat, if the Christians or the Americans could just stop eating meat, that would solve so many problems. So it seemed that Prabhupada's objection with Christianity was the meat eating, the sin. Not so much of if he would debate theology, there may be differences, but he never really went there. And some devotees wanted to write books on defeating Christianity, and he said, don't. It wasn't something that he wanted to deal with. And so we see from Prabhupada, he wasn't sectarian in that way. And I think he understood that different people will approach God differently, in different forms, in different ways. Like we have the story of Mahari Gupta, who was a Ram Bhakta, and Lord Chaitanya accepted that. In Sri Sampradaya, their approach to Krishna consciousness is on reverence. And that is their personal inclination. Even we've had some devotees join ISKCON and then become part of the Sri Sampradaya because they prefer that. So, as individuals, not everyone will be attracted to Krishna consciousness in terms of practicing it. I think there are many people who are attracted to it in the sense of they like the philosophy, they agree with it, or they agree with most of it. It makes sense to them. And a lot of those people who it makes sense to will say, yeah, I already understood this, or I already believe this. It's not like they had to get everything from Bhagavad Gita, but they understood it through reading other books, through their own religion, through hearing other people speak. But the particular details of Krishna consciousness, the culture of it, the strictness of it, it, in its present form, may not be so attractive to everyone. And the way I think, aside from that, reality that not everyone is has the intelligence or inclination to be Krishna conscious. But of course, everyone can chant and take prasadam. But the way I generally try to process it myself, it's not actually that I try to, it's just the way I do, because it helps me, is that I think everyone would be attracted to Krishna if we present it in the proper way. And I think that's a good, it may not be true, but definitely more people would be attracted. That's for sure. So I think that's our job, to figure out how to make it attractive as far as possible without compromising. And so that's the job of the devotees who are spreading Krishna consciousness. But we should know that not everyone is going to be attracted to this form of spirituality per se. I've also heard that some priests became devotees and remained priests. That you may wonder, well, why didn't they just take sannyas and preach Krishna consciousness? It appears that Christianity is attractive to them to some degree. They find inspiration there and insight, and or they can help people from that position. So we're all different. I had a friend who's a devotee, and he probably became a devotee in the early 80s. He's very intelligent and philosophical and creative. And once we were talking, and he was really upset. Well, I wouldn't say really upset, but you could see he was upset. And unfortunately, I can't remember what we were talking about, but it was something regarding India and Krishna consciousness. And, some devotees feel that one of the problems with ISKCON is that it needs to be culturally more Indian, and that because Western culture is inferior to Indian culture, and that's part of the problem of ISKCON is it's too liberal. Western and liberal kind of become synonyms, which not necessarily is true, but it often is true. But we have this other reality, and some of you may experience this, and the reality was expressed by this devotee, because this devotee became Krishna conscious because of the philosophy, because of kirtan, because of prasadam, which is the reason most Westerners become Krishna conscious. They don't know much about Indian culture or the origins of Krishna consciousness, but they're very attracted to the philosophy, and that's how they learn about Krishna consciousness, by hearing the philosophy, attending kirtans, and taking prasadam. That's how they're exposed to it. So as far as cultural aspects of India, they're not that exposed to it. You might say, well, when they come to the temple, they're exposed to it, and it's exotic and attractive because it's different, but generally the attraction is the philosophy and the prasadam and the kirtan. And so this devotee, in some context we were discussing this devotee said, and he was a little angry, and I can't remember why he was angry and upset, but he was a little frustrated at either what people were saying or the direction ISKCON was going. And he said, I did not join ISKCON to become Indian. And he was upset when he said it, because he felt that there was this push that you have to be Indian, like you have to wear a dhoti kurta. And I guess he didn't like wearing dhoti kurta. He didn't like certain things, and he was reacting. And his point, without saying it, I think was obvious. He was attracted to the philosophy. He didn't come to ISKCON to become Indian. He came because of the philosophy. So this is a reality, for sure. And the better we can deliver Krishna consciousness in a way that's digestible, practical for people, without forcing them to jump through too many hoops to be Krishna conscious, especially cultural hoops, the more I think we'll find a broader acceptance. There has been, and still is, and maybe always will be, an unstated assumption that if you're part of any other religion, pretty much you're unfortunate, because you could be learning about Radha and Krishna's Leela. And in a sense, it's true. But I never saw Prabhupada say that or speak that way directly. He always said, whatever your religion is, just add Krishna consciousness to it. It'll help you. If you believe in God and you love God, that's the perfection of religion. So I don't think that was just advertising and propaganda. It seems that Prabhupada understood that a Krishna conscious world wouldn't necessarily be a world of one religion. Although Shankaracharya in his Gita Mahatmya said that, let there be one religion, I think Prabhupada was accepting of the fact there would be many religions, but one religion within many religions, which is love of God. And if you're spreading Krishna consciousness and you think that God consciousness only exists within ISKCON, then you want to convert everyone to become devotees of ISKCON, which is, of course, nothing wrong with that, and everything good about it. But I don't think that entirely encompasses Prabhupada's vision. And so, it's like sometimes you evaluate your success by the number of people who join ISKCON. But I don't think that's the way Prabhupada evaluated it. He wanted people to read his books, take prasadam, so many things. So how many people have you reached with Krishna conscious knowledge, with prasadam, with kirtan? Sometimes you look at the result and say, but what's the result? Oh, yeah, we should look at the results. But sometimes the result is just that you were able to enlighten people, and that's your service. Give them this knowledge. And that will help them in their spiritual life. And at some point, they may want to become devotees of Krishna, maybe not. That we ultimately can't control, but we can do our best to attract them. And I have sometimes done something which I find extremely interesting, which is I listen to interviews why women become nuns. Young women who have their whole life ahead of them. Some of them with very promising futures. Some of them extremely physically attractive, which means they could attract very handsome men. And they give it up and they tell their stories. And you know what their stories sound like? Verbatim, the stories of devotees joining ISKCON. Verbatim. You just close your eyes and listen, and you wouldn't know it wasn't a devotee story. So that spiritual yearning and inkling is there. Somehow or other, Catholicism is their religion. They were born into it. They're attracted to it. Okay, you say they eat meat. Yeah, that's bad. No question. People are evolving on the path. And that's how it is. Much could be said about this, but okay, Shravaniya says, in the purport, in the Bhagavatam 2:235, personality of God, our Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul, and this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. This is the purport. Yeah, we didn't read this. Oh my God. Thank you for posting this. Srila Prabhupada, following Sukadev Goswami, gives a practical suggestion how one can perceive the Supersoul by reason and perception. Maybe in one of your future lectures you could read that. Yeah, we should. Thank you. Maybe today we'll read it. 2:35. I'm going to bring it up right now. And hopefully there's time and we'll read it. This is the Supersoul purport. So long, quite a long purport, right? Not so long. Long enough to put a few of you to sleep, but not that long. Okay, thank you for that. If there's time. After we go through the comments, I will read that because that's important. I don't know why in my document that was not there, but thank you. So we have a controversial question from Krishna Karshani. I guess this will wake all of you up. Yeah. Or if you were getting bored or distracted, now we have your attention. Controversy. Everyone loves controversy. Without controversy, I think so many shows on TV and YouTube would not have the viewership they do. Okay. What about devotees who ended up being disciples of ISKCON gurus who fell down? Does it mean that they wanted to be cheated? Oh yeah, we already answered the question. And they really didn't want Krishna consciousness because after the fall down, the guru, most of the devotees are leaving. Well, I'll answer another question. And I think in some cases, what you say is true because some devotees did leave. But the opposite is also true because in some cases they did take reinitiation and they were much happier because they felt that the guru they found was better for their spiritual life or more was actually much more evolved than their guru. So, both things could be there. I have seen, it's interesting, I have seen amongst some devotees when their guru fell down, they weren't even following Krishna consciousness that strictly. So when their guru fell down, it was kind of like, oh, okay. Well, I don't consider my vows that important because he gave up his. So it was, as you say, kind of gave them an opportunity to remove themselves from Krishna consciousness to one degree or another. But as I said, opposite is also true. That many devotees saw it as a blessing, that they found a guru who is helping them more than their former guru. So both are true. And everything in the middle is also true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Christy says you talked about yesterday regarding who is and isn't a devotee. Yeah. I joined ISKCON, now I'm a devotee. You didn't join ISKCON, now you're not a devotee. Not exactly. You actually have to be a devotee. Just joining externally is not enough. Okay. So Jyotirmaya says, being a former Christian Orthodox, I can affirm that ascetic Orthodox monks are not only vegetarian, they're vegan. Wow. In Orthodox Church, before taking communion or before important feasts like Easter, you have to become vegan even for 40 days. Wow. To purify your body, and no sex is allowed those days as well. So there are a lot of similarities. Orthodox Church does not know what purity is. The point is there are so few Christians that do it. Yeah, that's true. It's too bad there's not more. They've kind of lost that spirit, and that would make us wonder: is ISKCON going to lose that spirit? This. Sometimes we talk about the statement. You have to be real, and the statement "you have to be real" means you have to know where you're at, and you can't act artificially. But sometimes that statement "you have to be real" is misunderstood or misapplied to the point where you could end up with a situation like Jyotirmaya is describing, that although these kinds of austerities were recommended and certain strictures were recommended in Christianity, over the years of thousands of years, the 2,000 years of you have to be real, it became so real that nobody's doing it. Because after all, you have to be real, and we can't do that because that's So, real life becomes Maya. That's what's real. So, according to Shastra, Maya is not real. Maya is unreal. So that's a problem. We have to understand that we have to be careful when we talk about being real, that we don't, I have to be real myself, but I don't change the philosophy. I say, I'm not able to follow this principle, but that's my weakness. That's true. If I can't follow it, it's my weakness. But if I say it's a problem with the principle because the principle should be changed because nobody can follow it, that's the danger. Then you start changing, and then 500 years from now, there's only two regulative principles, or one, or there's none. No, we don't require regulative principles. Why? Because nobody can follow them, and we don't want to force people to do something they can't do. So, Prabhupada's mood was bold in asking people to follow the four principles, and he knew that it wasn't going to be easy, and he knew that not everyone could do it, but that was a requirement. He didn't want to water that down. So that's an important point. If the general public can't follow it, it doesn't minimize the value of the principle. I was just reading something from the Yoga Sutras about celibacy, and unfortunately, I can't remember verbatim what it said, but it was extolling the glories of celibacy, and basically it was saying that the semen it's a vital substance, it's an energy, it's a life substance. So you take that energy and then you get rid of it, you lose it. It's like taking money and just throwing it out the window. Now you have no money. So it talks about this vital force of energy and how when you retain it, what it does to the body and the mind, how that energy invigorates the body and the mind and the memory and, as Prabhupada said, determination. So you can never minimize that, even though that maybe you can't, you have to get married because you can't be celibate, or maybe within marriage, you're not perfectly celibate. You say, I tried, I'm just being real. I can't be perfectly celibate, although I want to be. Okay, that's real for you. Fine. We understand that. We're not, we're trying, we're works in progress. We understand we have to be, that's what Prabhupada wants. We're trying our best. But to say something like, as devotees have said, this principle should be compromised, it should be changed because it's so difficult to follow, then you're running into this problem where you lose the austerity. And the austerity is the real power of spiritual life. So that's important. So I just wanted to state that so we don't make that mistake. So Krishna Karshani says, maybe dividing our movement into Krishna West and East would help spreading KC. We would have access to more people, not only those who are Indian lovers. Yeah. And there are some who love India and who love the Western culture also. So you get another variety. It's not everyone Krishna West doesn't like India, and everyone who likes India doesn't like Krishna West. And what is obvious is that people are accustomed to their own culture. And we see that in the different views devotees have who live in different parts of the world. And so that's fine. If you go to a feast which is cooked by Indians, it's going to be spicier than a feast cooked by Westerners. It's also going to be oilier, most likely. And it's going to have, it's just going to be different. Well, you could say, someone would say, not all Indians cook spice with a lot of spices. I just haven't met them yet. I like to meet them. Tell me who they are. I'll have them cook for me. But the ones I know, you know what I tell them? I say, okay, this is what I want you to do. when you cook, take the amount of chili you would normally use, put it in, divide it into fourths, so 4 portions. Take 1 portion of that, and that's how much I want you to use. Take your turmeric, cut it in half, that's how much I want you to use. And take your oil, maybe like a third, use about a third, and that would be American cooking. It's not a joke, I'm just serious, because I've had to explain this to Indians, because they feed me and they say, and then I'm like, and they say, it's hot? They're like in shock that it's hot. And I say, yeah, it's like 4 times hotter than I'm used to. And for them, it's normal. So, cultural differences are there, but they don't always translate. I remember back in the day, it's the early days of ISKCON, when it was time for sweet rice. Our favorite, the brahmacharis, one of their favorite sweets, sweet rice, ladus, and halava. It was worth all the austerities of 6 days of going out on Sankirtan and getting up at 4 o'clock and everything we did. So on Sunday, we could get our sweet rice, halava, and ladu. Except we started putting camphor in the sweet rice, because camphor in the sweet rice is ever so special. If you're not a Westerner, it's special. But if you're a Westerner, it's like, something's wrong with this sweet rice. What's wrong with it? It tastes kind of like a throat lozenge, or it tastes kind of like a medicine. And the Indian goes, no, it is camphor. Camphor is very nice. Little bit camphor, it's very delicious. And you're looking at them going, delicious? Are you kidding me? This is horrible. Here, you want mine? You can have it. I'll be generous. I'll give you my sweet rice because I love you so much. And they're eating it with camphor, and they're like, this is so nice. And you're thinking, this is like eating, it's like eating mouthwash or something. It's a different culture. And so I think that's a good example, camphor. Maybe we should call this class Camphor and the Sweet Rice, because camphor and the sweet rice for some Indians is like, it's fantastic. But for a Westerner, I'm sure there are Westerners, who developed a taste for it. But I think it's a good example. It's just culturally, you have to be relevant to what people are comfortable with or what people appreciate. At least conscious of it. Okay. How many of you have had camphor in your sweet rice and like it? Let me know. So we went through that camphor and the sweet rice phase in early days of ISKCON. It didn't last very long because I think Prabhupada liked it and recommended it. And everyone was saying, camphor and the sweet rice, it's amazing, it's delicious, because Prabhupada liked it. But after like 3 Sunday feasts, we couldn't convince ourselves that it was good. So it kind of fell out of favor in the kitchen, and we stopped making it. I think the next Sunday, no guests came, something like that. Anyway, it was a phase we went through, but it was funny because it was supposed to be good. I think Prabhupada said it was good, and we just didn't have the taste for it. It probably is good. We're just not purified enough or culturally attuned to it to appreciate it. So that was funny. Katie says, I think it can happen for various reasons. For example, being attached more to the personality of the guru rather than what the guru preaches, or it could be because they were let down by the most important person in their lives, and lost hope. Yeah, for sure. That there could actually be someone who could restore their faith, definitely. Because the most important person for them couldn't keep up. Yeah, it's the fall down of the guru is really difficult. Because naturally, devotees think if he couldn't do it, I've been struggling, and if he couldn't do it, why should I do it? I saw this not only with his disciples, but with God brothers and sisters who were also doing tremendous austerity. And they were thinking, I was doing this austerity because he was asking me to do it. No, why should I continue? He gave up his austerity, and it was so hard for me to do it. So it had, shock waves. It had a lot of shock waves going in various directions. But prasadam cooked by Indians is very tasty. Yeah, it's true, no doubt, especially Gujaratis. And if you like rice, then stay at the home of a South Indian, because you will see more rice in one day than you've seen in your life. There's rice at every meal in some form or another. But you know what I'm saying, Jyotirmani. Not everybody likes Indian cooking, and not everyone likes it spicy. So I have a Sadhyarupa has never heard of camphor and the sweet rice, and she's Indian. So, yes. Yeah, we're not used to spicy cooking as Westerners, but some Westerners like it. Okay. Well, Sadhyarupa, since you've never heard of camphor in the sweet rice, I think you should buy some camphor and buy some sweet rice and put it in, and you will have a real experience. Camphor and the sweet rice sounds like a rasabas. No. Maybe I'm dreaming, but I have to ask some God brothers. You remember camphor and the sweet? Remember those days, camphor and the sweet rice? Maybe I was just dreaming. It never really happened. Could it also be karma that we choose a Diksha Guru who later falls? Maybe like Krishna Karshan, he said, if you go with him, and that was really your desire. But there are many, many devotees whose guru had trouble that are doing extremely well in Krishna consciousness. So I think really, as we said, I was quoting that verse, Nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatin tatagachati. If you're sincere, you'll be successful. That's what Krishna says. So sincerity will always guide you. Like in some cases, it guided someone to a Siksha Guru and said, because my Guru was having difficulty, I found this Siksha Guru, and the Siksha Guru is really helping me. So it actually was a blessing in disguise. So I think one thing we can conclude is that whatever it is we want, we'll end up getting. And if we want Krishna, we'll get him. We'll find him, and we'll get the people who will help us get him. Now, Christy says something, and I don't remember what it's in response to. For various reasons, neglects a devotee. I don't remember what that was in relation to. A bit of camphor and sweet rice tastes okay for me. Okay. All right. So Krishna Karshani, the next Sunday feast you go to, I want you to walk around with a little camphor and ask everybody, would you like some camphor in your sweet rice? And see how many takers there are. Maybe, I don't know, where's Vijay Lakshmi? Vijay Lakshmi. What about camphor in the sweet rice? Is it true that Indians like camphor in the sweet rice? I need to know. This is like an issue now, camphor in the sweet rice. Oh, so, once you taste South Indian food and then tell me what spicy food is. No, all you have to do is go to the restaurant in Mumbai. I used to live in Mumbai for 3 months, and I ended up having to eat at the restaurant quite often. And I think the only thing I could eat was like salad. It was everything else. I was like, it was like torture. It was so hard for me to eat it. But for the Indian people, it was just like, oh yeah, I was going to say, if you ask an Indian, is this spicy? And they say no, don't believe them. Do not believe them. If you're a Western, they say it's not spicy. And if they say it's a little spicy, Get out your fire extinguisher, because you're not going to be. If an Indian says it's a little spicy, you know what that means? Translates into Western. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's at 11. And if they say it's not spicy, it's at a 9. That's my experience. But little spicy, forget it. Yeah. That's why after eating at Indians' homes, I came up with this realization. The golden rule is bogus, because the golden rule is do unto others as you would like them to do to you. Okay, so I'm going to feed you this super spicy, oily prasadam because that's what I like. No, don't do unto others what you would like them to do to you. How about this? I know this sounds kind of simple. How about do unto others what they would like to be done to them? Oh, okay. That was a dumb moment, right? Yeah, that's the new golden rule. Okay. The new golden rule. Do unto others what they would like to be done to them, not what they would like you to do to yourself, and do it to them. You know? Maybe you like to do strange, torturous things to yourself. Don't do it to them. Okay, Vijay Lakshmi. White, fragrant solid that comes from the wood and bark of a tall Asian tree, camphor tree, and is used mostly in medicine, in making plastics, and to repel moths. Yeah. And for sweet rice as well. Camphor trees grow all over Australia, so they can have a lot of camphor in their sweet rice. I meant as part of the question, if a guru, for his reasons, decides to neglect his disciple, could it also be karma? It's transcendental to karma, I think. But, you say, well, what if you were a guru and you left your disciples? Okay, next life. You have a disciple, you have a guru and he leaves you. It could be. But I would say that whatever happens, your sincerity will guide you to stay in Krishna consciousness. Why ISKCON gurus have innumerable disciples when they can't invest time with the millions of their disciples? Well, not millions, thousands. I think guru and his disciple is a very deep relationship, where disciple can learn path of spirituality from his guru. But when guru has millions of disciples, then the gurus can't do justice to you. So the reason is because Prabhupada said, go out and make thousands of disciples. But if you're going to make thousands of disciples, then you're going to have systems to educate your disciples. And that could be through having mentors, or so many things. And for you, if you want that closer relationship, then if you want to accept a guru, then accept a guru who doesn't have so many disciples. Although, it doesn't mean he won't have any that have a lot of disciples 10 years from now. That you can't control. But some disciples are very inspired by certain gurus. And the fact that they don't have a personal association and will never talk to them doesn't really matter to them. They just are inspired by that guru so much. And for others, it does matter a lot. So if it matters a lot, then they should not take from a guru who will not have any personal interaction with them. And what you said, Harit, has been said by many devotees. Many devotees feel that it's a better system to have less disciples. But sometimes you can't control that, because some gurus are very popular and hundreds and thousands of people want to become their disciples. What to do? And generally the guru doesn't want to turn them away. Because if they have faith in him, that faith is important for their spiritual life, and then he's not certain necessarily they'll have that much faith in somebody else. And they'll say, only you have faith and nobody else. And then what does he do? Say, too bad. He can't say that. I have godbrothers who are not taking more disciples. They have 600 or something. That's enough. They said that's plenty. I can hardly deal with them. Others have thousands, 20,000, 50,000. 10,000. Vijay Lakshmi thinks camphor is poison if you eat it. Well, we have any volunteers that eat some camphor and see if they die? And then if we don't see them in class on Monday, we know it's a poison. And if they show up, we know it's not. No, it can't be a poison because we used to eat it, unless I'm dreaming. But camphor, I'm going to find out. Camphor in the sweet rice. I have to get a confirmation. I need to get a confirmation. Maybe there's an old Hare Krishna cookbook that has a sweet rice recipe with camphor in it. And Prabhupada joked about, they say there's a poison. He said, scientists say the poison is tasteless. He said, how do they know it's tasteless? Because if it's poison and you taste it, to determine it's tasteless, it'll kill you. And then you won't be alive to tell us if it was tasteless. He jokes like that. So Tanya says, I've had the pleasure of reading a couple of books by Christian authors, and I appreciated them so much because throughout I could see the exact same principles that are part of our philosophy. For instance, the works of Christian mystics like St. John of the Cross and Teresa de Avila are very reminiscent of the higher stages of bhakti, our Vaishnavacharyas talk about. That really nourishes my faith in Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's non-sectarian movement. I really feel it's a universal science. And elements of that science are present in all bonfire. Yeah. There's a lot of great saints, Christian saints, austere. Katie says, there's not enough gurus and way too many disciples, aspiring disciples. Yeah. Krishna Karshini, I don't eat sweet rice anymore. I'm vegan. But cardamom is better for sweet rice. You can make sweet rice with almond milk. I'm at the office and while working, listening to your lesson, and I have difficult time not laughing out loud. Okay, I will not say anything funny because we don't want to disturb Jyotirmaya at work. Camphor is used to flavor desserts, especially during the festival of Pongal or Sankranti, also known as Sugi Habla. People from South India add a dash of camphor in sweet rice. Yeah, I was right. I wasn't dreaming, with milk, bay leaves, and black pepper, and offer it as boga to the deities. All right, it's getting worse now. Bay leaves and black pepper. Oh my God. A pinch of edible camphor may also help you to get a sound sleep. Okay. Yeah, we did kind of sleep a lot after the Sunday feast. Okay, so there it is, everyone. That is Krishna East versus Krishna West. Well, how do you know? How do you know if you're Krishna West or you're Krishna East? We ask you a question. Do you like camphor in your sweet rice? And you say, you're Krishna West. Do you like camphor in your sweet rice? Love it. You're Krishna East. Okay. Solve that problem of the difference between Krishna West and East. That's simple. Okay. Marco says, if it's cooked with loving devotion, we'll make camphor and sweet rice as good as nectar. And while you eat it, Marco, you have to tell yourself, it's prasadam. Krishna likes this. It actually tastes good, even though I don't like it. That's what we used to do when we eat it, because we heard, like, Krishna likes this. And we're like, okay, why would he like this? I don't understand. I guess I have to like it also. And we try to like it, but it didn't work. Which is interesting, right? Attending this lecture while cooking for Thakurji is superb. Claudia. Thank you, Claudia. You're welcome, Harit. There's a kind of camphor that can be eaten, yeah. Small amount of camphor in sweet rice is very tasty. Okay, you are Krishna East. Vishwakarma, you are Krishna East. Because you like camphor in your sweet rice, yeah. Now, it doesn't sound like Vishwakarma is from India. Stanislav Zukowski. Definitely not from India. But it shows that even non-Indians can become Krishna East. Mother Jumini uses camphor in her recipes for sweets. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It is true. Some camphor comes with a warning that it's not edible. So I've always assumed there's another edible. Yeah, now we know. There's edible camphor. So now your homework today is to make sweet rice and put camphor in it and eat it. And take a picture of yourself while you're eating it so we can see your expression on your face and post it on Facebook. So you're eating sweet rice and you take a picture with camphor in it like that, or like, yum, yum. And then that way we can categorize you into Krishna West and Krishna East. On the side note, I found a clue about the story of Prabhupada's shoes in New Vrindavan. Wow. Kadambakanas. So is it the same as I told it? Why steal Prabhupada's shoes? Tanya, is it the same? And where did he hear it? Because I don't even think he had joined ISKCON by that time. So where did he hear it? Oh, no, he was in ISKCON at that time. What am I saying? Okay, now, another comment. Have been cooking from the Hare Krishna book for a week now, and it's all I can cook now. We'll have to get some camphor. Can't wait to try it. Okay, Monday, this weekend, you're all going to try to eat camphor and report back to us and tell us your experience. Yeah, I do remember some sweets with camphor. It was like, I'll take cinnamon over camphor myself, if I have a choice. Here's your sweet rice. You want a little cinnamon in it, or you want a little camphor? Tough choice. Let me think about it. I didn't mention where you heard it. Same story. Yeah, I figured Stanislaw Zuławski was Polish. Zuławski sounds Polish. Is that how you pronounce it? Zukowski. Yeah. I had a lot of Polish friends. They were Jewish. At least they have names that sound like they're from Poland. Are there Jews in Poland? I guess that's why the Germans didn't like them, right? Yeah. Okay, we have 11 minutes. We can read and discuss this beautiful purport. We can discuss this beautiful purport that Jyotirmai. The Shravaniya. Yeah, we're going to discuss it right now. Okay, so everybody pay attention. This beautiful purport. This is from 2235, Bhagavatam. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul, and this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. So you take help from the intelligence, and that is how Supersoul is perceived. Interesting. It's also, the Prabhupada said also the fact that you can do anything, like make sense out of anything and act, like sometimes I drive down the street and all these cars are driving this way and that way, and I think, what if one of the people driving a car just becomes deranged? Can't figure anything out. What side of the road is what, or how to drive the car? But that generally doesn't happen unless they're drunk. So Prabhupada's saying, you wouldn't even know how to walk if the Supersoul wasn't guiding you. So if the Supersoul leaves the heart of all the drivers, then there'll be huge traffic accidents. That's the conclusion of today's class. Purport. The general argument of the common man is that since the Lord is not visible to our eyes, how can one either surrender unto him or render transcendental loving service unto him? To such a common man, here is a practical suggestion given by Shukadev Goswami as to how one can perceive the Supreme Lord by reason and perception. Actually, the Lord is not perceivable by our present materialized senses, but When one is convinced of the presence of the Lord by a practical service attitude, there is a revelation by the Lord's mercy, and such a pure devotee of the Lord can perceive the Lord's presence always and everywhere. So through service, Krishna will show you how he's there. He can perceive that intelligence is a form of guidance by the Paramatma, a plenary portion of the personality of Godhead. The presence of the Paramatma in everyone's company is not very difficult to realize, even for the common man. The procedure is as follows. So now we're going to go through Paramatma realization in 1 or 2 paragraphs. Okay, this was kind of like, this is like a guided meditation. Maybe you can close your eyes and I'll read it like a guided meditation. One can perceive one's self-identification and feel positively that he exists. He may not feel it very abruptly, but by using a little intelligence, he can feel that he is not the body. He can feel that the hand, the leg, the head, the hair, and the limbs are all his bodily parts and parcels. But as the hand, the leg, the head, etc., cannot be identified with his self. But as such, the hand, the leg, the head cannot be identified with his self. Therefore, just by using intelligence, he can distinguish and separate his self from other things that he sees. So the natural conclusion is that the living being, either man or beast, is the seer, and he sees besides himself all other things. So there is a difference between the seer and the seen. Now, by a little use of intelligence, we can also readily agree that the living being who sees the things beyond himself by ordinary vision has no power to see or to move independently. All our ordinary actions and perceptions depend on various forms of energy supplied to us by nature in various combinations. Our senses of perception and action, that is to say, our 5 perceptive senses, hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, as well as our 5 senses of action, namely hands, legs, speech, evacuation organs, and reproductive organs, and also our 3 subtle senses, namely mind, intelligence, and ego, 13 senses in all, are supplied to us by various arrangements of gross or subtle forms of natural energy. And it is equally evident that our objects of perception are nothing but the products of the inexhaustible permutations and combinations of the forms taken by natural energy. As this conclusively proves that the ordinary living being has no independent power of perception or of motion, and as we undoubtedly feel our existence being conditioned by nature's energy, we conclude that he who sees is spirit, and that the senses, as well as objects of perception, are material. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. That is the difference between spirit and matter. There are some less intelligent arguments that matter develops the power of seeing and moving at a certain point in organic development. But such an argument cannot be accepted because there is no experimental evidence that matter has anywhere produced a living entity. I'm just going to go down a little bit because we have this intelligence. Bear with me a little bit, will you? This is actually the point I wanted to read. At this point in our investigation, we may consider the following question. On the one hand, we realize that all our perceptions and activities are conditioned by arrangements of material nature. Yet we also ordinarily feel and say, I am perceiving or I am doing. Therefore, we can say that our material senses of perception and action are moving because we are identifying the self with the material body, and that the superior principle of the superself is guiding and supplying us according to our desire. By taking advantage of the guidance of the superself in the form of intelligence, we can either continue to study and to put into practice our conclusion that I'm not the body, or we can choose to remain in the false material identification, fancying ourselves to be the possessors and doers. We can easily attain to the true spiritual conception by recognizing the Paramatma to be our friend and guide, by dovetailing our intelligence with the superior intelligence of the Paramatma. The Supersoul and individual soul are both spirit, and the Supersoul and individual soul are qualitatively one. So, far as common sense, we come to the conclusion there are three identities: matter, spirit, and superspirit. Okay. Anyway, that's a lot. There's more, but we'll end there, and I'll see if you have any other comments. The only comment is cinnamon and camphor. Okay. So we have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to make your comments, ladies and gentlemen. Or should I summarize what we left? I mean, basically, Prabhupada is saying, he's saying maybe in a little more covered way than what he has said more directly in other cases, that we cannot function without some guidance of intelligence. We can't make sense of anything. And we can understand that we're perceiving the body, we're perceiving intelligence, we're perceiving the mind, and that intelligence is given to us. But we are distinct from that. That's basically what Prabhupada is saying. By use of intelligence, you can understand you're not the body. If you just meditate on it, that's kind of the conclusion. Okay. So, I think that's it for today. Everyone has their homework to eat camphor sweet rice and take a picture while you're eating. And then we'll see who's Krishna West and who's Krishna East on Monday. Okay. Thank you for that. And Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna to all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.